The sky above planet Virex was always cloudy. Thick gray clouds moved slowly like tired animals, and dust storms rose without warning. In Sector 9 there were no cities, no markets, no people laughing or shouting. Only broken machines, abandoned, outposts and old scars of war remained. Cal Mercer wiped sweat from his forehead as he pushed his rover over a small hill. The tires made crunching sounds on the dry ground. His eyes scanned the horizon through dusty goggles. He had seen smoke, black, and twisting rising into the dull sky. That usually meant wreckage. And wreckage meant parts he could salvage. Cal was a mechanic from Earth. He had been sent to this planet a year ago with a repair team, but when the main station shut down, everyone left, except him. Cal stayed behind to live a quiet life, fixing machines and avoiding trouble. He wasn't a soldier, not a hero, just a man who liked silence and engines. When he reached the smoke, he saw it. A small escape pod, half buried in the dirt, its metal body still warm. The hatch had blown open from the crash. Something or someone had crawled out. Drag marks led a few meters away, and then they stopped. Lying beside a cracked boulder was a figure. Small, pale, and strangely still. Cal parked the rover and walked slowly. As he got closer, he saw more details. Armor that shimmered with strange patterns, silver veins glowing faintly under the skin, and a face that was not fully human yet not fully alien either. One ear was pointed and thin like paper, the other looked more normal. Her hair was a soft gray blue, tangled with A crowd had already gathered behind him, scavengers, traders, and a few local guards who had seen the smoke too. They stood at a distance whispering, "Don't touch it, it's a hybrid." "Those things are dangerous." Cal looked back at them. "She's breathing," he said. One guard laughed nervously. "So what? Let her die. You know what happened to the last outpost that helped a hybrid?" Someone else shouted, "She could be a weapon. Just leave her." But Cal didn't move away. He crouched down beside the figure. Her eyes opened slowly. Bright, silver-blue eyes locked with his, full of fear and pain. "Help," she whispered in a broken voice. Cal's chest tightened. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small med scanner. It beeped strangely when he hovered it over her chest. The signals were unlike anything he'd seen. Her heart rate was irregular, her temperature too low, and parts of her body gave off strange readings like machinery. Still, she was alive, and she was asking for help. "I need a stretcher," Cal said. No one answered. "I said I need a stretcher." The people stared at him as if he were mad. No one moved. So Cal stood up, walked to his rover, and pulled out a folded rescue sled. He dragged it back, gently rolled the hybrid onto it, and began pulling it back to his rover. One man stepped forward, frowning. "You're making a mistake, human. She's not one of us." Cal stared at him. "She's alive. That's enough." He lifted her into the back of his rover and covered her with a blanket. The hybrid shivered but didn't resist. Her eyes stayed on him the whole time. Cal drove away without another word, leaving the crowd behind in silence. His shelter was an old supply depot built into a cliffside. It had solar panels, a medical station, and enough supplies to last months. He had repaired it over time, turning it into a quiet, safe place. He laid the hybrid on the medical table and began cleaning the cuts and burns. Her skin was soft but felt slightly warm, almost metallic in some places. When he touched a spot near her side, a panel on her skin opened slightly, revealing wires and glowing threads beneath. Cal stepped back, stunned. "What are you?" he whispered. Her voice was weak. "Lyra. My name is Lyra." She tried to sit up but groaned in pain. "Don't move," he said. "You're hurt bad. Just stay still." She nodded and closed her eyes again. Cal worked through the night. He connected her to the med unit, adjusted its settings to account for her unusual biology, and replaced some of the fluids in her system. The machine kept beeping in confusion, but Lyra slowly became more stable. In the morning she was asleep, breathing slow, even breaths. Cal sat beside her, drinking from a metal cup and staring at the wall. What had he done? The Coalition had rules. Hybrids were considered property in some systems, experiments from old wars feared by both sides. Saving one might be seen as betrayal. But she wasn't a thing. She had spoken. She had eyes that showed pain, not violence. When Lyra finally woke again, she looked around the room carefully. "You saved me," she whispered. "I did," Cal said quietly. "Why?" He thought for a moment. "Because no one else did." Tears welled up in her strange eyes. "I won't forget," she said. He didn't know what to say to that. So he handed her a small piece of bread and said, "Eat this. You need strength." Lyra smiled slightly. It was small and tired, but it was a smile. Outside the shelter, dark shapes moved in the sky. Drones from the Coalition. They were already scanning the area. Trouble was coming. But Cal didn't regret his choice. Not yet. Cal woke up to the soft hum of the shelter's warning system. It was still early, the light outside barely seeping through the small windows. Dust floated in the air. The sound meant one thing. Scanners were active in the area. Coalition drones. He walked to the control panel, pressed a few buttons, and saw the signal. 2 patrolling drones flying low, searching the ground. He didn't panic. His shelter was shielded and underground. They wouldn't detect anything unless they got close. But it was still a reminder. He had taken a big risk by helping Lyra, and now others were looking for her. He turned and looked toward the med bay. Lyra was awake. She sat on the edge of the bed, her feet barely touching the floor. She had wrapped a thin blanket around her shoulders. Her strange, silver-blue eyes watched him closely. "You should rest," Cal said, walking in. "I've rested enough," she answered softly. "My body is healing fast, it always does." Cal picked up a small scanner and ran it over her. The reading still made no sense to him. Her body wasn't just healing. It was adapting. One of her cuts had already closed, and the skin there looked stronger, smoother, like new armor forming. "What are you really?" he asked. Lyra looked down. "You won't believe me. Try me." She hesitated, then began to speak. "I was made, not born. I am part human, part alien, and part something else. I was created in a lab, deep inside Coalition space. They called me a hybrid scout. I was built to go where others couldn't, to gather knowledge, to survive." Cal frowned. "So, you're like a spy?" "Yes," she said. "But I wasn't loyal to them. I saw what they did, what they planned, so I escaped. They didn't like that." Cal leaned back in his chair. "They're hunting you," Lyra nodded. "And they won't stop until they get me back, or destroy me." The shelter went silent for a while. Only the wind howled outside. "You don't look dangerous," Cal finally said. "I wasn't made to look dangerous," she whispered. "But I can be, if I need to be." Cal thought of the fear on the faces of the scavengers yesterday. No one had dared to even get close to her. But now, sitting here, wrapped in a blanket, talking like a frightened girl, she didn't look like a weapon. She looked lonely. Later that day, Cal made soup from dried rations and shared it with her. Lyra tasted it slowly, as if she had never eaten real food before. "You eat like you've never had a meal," he joked. She looked up and gave a small laugh. "I haven't, not like this. In the lab, we were given energy packs and nutrient tubes, no flavor, no warmth." Cal blinked. "That's horrible." "It's how they kept us focused. No distractions, no attachments." "Well," Cal said, "welcome to distractions. And attachments." Lyra smiled again. That made it 3 times in one day. For someone who was supposed to be a machine, she smiled more than some humans he knew. As night fell, the scanner beeped again. This time the signal was closer. A ship. Small, fast, unmarked. Cal turned to Lyra. "They found you." She stood, her eyes glowing faintly. We need to move. No, I'll hide you. There's no time. Cal opened the floor hatch under the bed. Below was a narrow tunnel leading into an old mining shaft. He handed her a small communicator. Go. I'll mislead them. If I don't return by morning, keep running. Lyra didn't move. Why are you doing this? Because you asked for help, Cal said. And I said yes. She reached forward and touched his hand. Her skin was warm, her fingers light. I don't want to leave you. You have to survive, Cal said firmly. Now go. Lyra nodded and disappeared into the tunnel. Minutes later, a knock came at the shelter door. Cal opened it slowly. 2 soldiers in dark armor stood there. No markings, no badges. Their visors glowed red. We're scanning the area, one of them said. Unregistered energy signatures have been detected. Cal stepped aside. Nothing here but a broken mechanic and a pile of rusted drones. The soldiers entered. They searched quickly, efficiently. One of them paused near the medbay. He picked up a blood-stained cloth. Whose blood is this? Mine, Cal lied. Cut myself fixing a generator. The soldier stared at him for a long second, then dropped the cloth and moved on. After 10 minutes, they left. Cal stood at the door, watching the sky. He didn't move until their ship became a tiny dot. Only then did he open the hatch and help Lyra back up. You stayed, she whispered. Told you I would. She looked around the room, eyes wet. They're not just hunting me. They're afraid of what I know. What do you mean? They're building something dangerous. A weapon that uses people like me, hybrids, connected together. It's not just a threat to me, it's a threat to everyone. Cal sat down heavily. You're saying you have proof? Yes. And it's inside me, coded into my system. That's why they want me back so badly. He rubbed his face. This was bigger than he thought. You can't run forever, he said. I know, Cal stood up. Then maybe it's time we stop hiding. Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. You'll fight with me? I'm not a soldier, but I know people, and I know machines. Maybe that's enough. She reached out again, holding his hand tightly. You're not afraid? I am, Cal said honestly. But that doesn't mean I'll back away. In that moment, something changed between them. Not just trust, but connection. She wasn't just a hybrid anymore, and he wasn't just a mechanic. They were allies now, maybe even friends. And the fight was just beginning. The days that followed were quiet, but not peaceful. Cal and Lyra stayed inside the shelter most of the time. The air outside was too dry and sharp, and drones passed overhead more often. They spoke little during the day, but when the sun dipped, behind the red cliffs they talked, not about war or technology or missions. They talked about small things, Earth, music, dreams, memories. It surprised Cal how much Lyra wanted to know about Earth. She asked questions like a child, eager and open. What is a beach like? She asked once, sitting cross-legged on the floor, her silver blue eyes full of wonder. Warm, Cal replied, and loud with waves. Sand gets everywhere. You'd probably hate it. Lyra smiled. I think I'd like to try. Then one evening, while Cal worked on an old satellite drone, Lyra walked into the room. Her face was serious. I need to show you something. He looked up. What is it? She didn't answer with words. Instead, she reached to her side just under the rib cage and pressed her fingers into the skin. With a soft click, a part of her body opened like a small compartment. Thin wires and a glowing blue crystal were inside, pulsing slowly. Cal stepped back in shock. Is that your core? She nodded. It's a data crystal. Everything I've seen, learned, or scanned is stored here. That includes what the Coalition is planning. Cal leaned in carefully. Can I touch it? You can, she said, voice quiet. But be careful. It's connected to my life. He gently touched the edge of the compartment. The warmth surprised him. It wasn't cold like metal, but alive, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. This is incredible, he whispered. Your body is part machine. but it doesn't feel like a machine at all. Lyra closed the panel again, with a slow breath. I was designed to blend in, to collect data unnoticed. But when I learned what they were doing with the others, I ran. What do you mean? There are more like me. Hybrids. Each one is different. Some faster, some stronger, some smarter. But none of them were free. The Coalition wants to connect us all using a control network. We wouldn't think for ourselves anymore. We'd become one large weapon. Cal sat down slowly. That's horrifying. She looked at him. They want to test the system soon. If we don't stop them, entire colonies could fall under their control. He rubbed his face, overwhelmed. And you have proof of this? Yes. In the data crystal. Cal stood up. Then we need to get that data to someone who can expose them. Lyra nodded. But we can't trust the main channels. The Coalition controls most of them. I know a way, Cal said. There's a comm tower north of here. Abandoned, but it still works. I used it once to send a distress signal. Can it send encrypted files? If I boost the power and change the signal path, yes. Lyra smiled. Then we have a chance. The next morning they packed supplies. Cal fixed up an old hoverbike, powered by solar energy. It wasn't fast, but it could move silently. As they prepared to leave, Lyra looked around the shelter. This place is safe, she said. Too safe, Cal replied, and safety won't stop what's coming. She nodded and climbed onto the bike behind him. The journey through the canyons was quiet. Rocks rose on both sides like walls, and sand blew across the path. They spoke little. Both were thinking about what might be waiting ahead. After 3 hours, the tower came into view, a tall, rusted structure standing alone in a flat field. It tilted slightly to one side, but its signal dish still pointed toward the sky. Cal parked the bike near the edge of the building. We'll need at least 20 minutes to upload the data. I'll stand guard, Lyra said. Inside, Cal worked fast. He connected wires, powered the old systems, and watched lights flicker to life. The terminal beeped and opened a connection. Meanwhile, Lyra walked the perimeter. Her eyes scanned the horizon. For a moment, everything was still. Then she heard a soft buzz in the air. She turned quickly. A small drone hovered near the rocks. Then another. She shouted, "Cal, we have company." He didn't stop. I need 5 more minutes. Lyra stepped forward. The drones moved toward her. She raised her hand. Her fingers sparked, small bursts of energy shooting between them. With a flick, she sent a wave of static forward. 2 drones dropped instantly. More came. She fought with speed and precision. Her body moved like a dancer, dodging beams and striking with sudden blasts of energy. But there were too many. A drone clipped her shoulder, burning the skin. Still, she didn't fall inside the tower. Cal saw the upload hit 80%. Hurry, hurry, Lyra yelled again, her voice sharp and full of warning. Cal grabbed a metal rod and ran outside. What are you doing? She asked, shielding him. Buying you time, he said. He swung the rod, smashing one of the drones. It sparked and fell. Lyra covered his side, firing energy bursts. Then suddenly, silence. The last drone dropped. They stood breathing hard, surrounded by broken metal. Cal looked at her, then at his watch. The upload. They ran back inside. The screen blinked. Upload. Complete. Signal sent. Cal smiled in relief. We did it. Lyra sat down on the floor, holding her arm. Her body was glowing faintly from the fight, small wires exposed from the injury. Cal crouched beside her. Let me fix that. She looked into his eyes. You could have left me. I know, he said. But you didn't. No, he whispered. Because you're not a thing, you're not a weapon, you're someone. Tears welled in her eyes again. Thank you. He wrapped her shoulder and helped her stand. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise again. They had sent the truth into space. Now someone would know, and the world would start to change. Together, they stepped out of the tower, ready to face what would come next. The tower was silent after the signal had been sent. Dust blew through the cracked windows and broken wires swayed in the wind. Cal stood by the terminal, staring at the blinking screen. The file was gone now, launched into the stars with coordinates that only a few trusted contacts would understand. Lyra sat quietly near the doorway, her back resting against the metal wall. Her arm was bandaged. Parts of her skin still glowed faintly, healing slowly after the battle with the drones. Her breath was steady, but her eyes stayed sharp, watching the horizon. "How long before they respond?" Cal asked. "If we're lucky, a few days," Lyra said. "If not, maybe never." Cal nodded. "And how long before they come for us?" Lyra looked up at him. "They're already coming." By nightfall, the sky had changed. A strange silence fell over the desert. Even the wind had stopped. The stars above were bright, but something moved between them. Cal used a small handheld scanner. The reading was clear. A ship was entering atmosphere, fast, silent, and unregistered. "They found us," he said. Lyra stood. "Then we can't stay here." Cal grabbed the emergency pack and motioned toward the hoverbike. But before they could leave, the ground trembled. A sharp sound cut through the air, a deep pulse, like thunder without clouds. "EMP blast," Lyra said. "They've shut down our electronics." Cal cursed under his breath. The hoverbike was useless now. "We run," he said. "The canyon's deeper on the west side. We can hide in the old mining tunnels." They moved fast across the dark terrain, keeping low. Above them, lights flickered in the sky. Search drones, dozens of them, scanning for heat signatures. Lyra held a small device to her chest, dimming her internal energy glow. Cal pulled his scarf over his face and held her hand. They ran for over an hour until they reached the canyon. The entrance to the mining tunnel was narrow and hidden behind a fallen rockslide. Cal moved the stones carefully, clearing a path. Inside, it was cold and dark. Lyra lit a small light from her palm, just enough to see the path ahead. "Stay close," she whispered. The tunnel twisted and dropped deeper into the ground. Old metal tracks ran beneath their feet and rusted carts lay broken along the walls. The silence inside was heavy, but safer than outside. They finally stopped in a large cavern where old machines rested like sleeping giants. Cal sank to the floor, breathing hard. "We can't keep running," he said. "I know," Lyra replied. "They'll keep chasing me until I stop breathing." Cal looked at her, eyes sharp. "We can fight." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "You're a mechanic, not a soldier." Cal smiled. "I've fixed war drones, reprogrammed defense grids, and built weapons from junk. I know machines better than most of them." She blinked, impressed. "Then maybe we make a stand," she said softly. They spent the next day setting traps throughout the tunnels. Cal used old mining bots, broken drones, and even spare wire from his toolkit. Lyra helped, guiding him where to place them. She used her own energy to power some of the traps, small bursts of electricity hidden in stone cracks. Every corner of the tunnel was now armed. As they worked, they talked. Cal told stories of Earth, about animals, rivers, and books he once read as a boy. Lyra listened closely, her expression soft. "I wish I'd seen it," she said. "You still can," Cal answered. Lyra paused. "You really believe that?" "I believe we make our own future," he said, "one step at a time." That night, as they sat in silence, Lyra turned to him. "You know," she said slowly, "when I escaped the lab, I didn't expect to survive more than a few days." Cal looked at her. "And now? I've made it this far. Because of you." He didn't say anything, but his hand gently rested on hers. She didn't pull away. The next evening it happened. The coalition squad entered the canyon. Black armor, red visors, and silent movements. They moved like shadows, scanning every corner. A commander stood at the front, helmet shaped like a hawk, voice cold through the comms. "Find the hybrid. Eliminate the human." Cal and Lyra watched from a small tunnel above the main cavern. Cal held a small control box in his hand. "Wait," Lyra whispered. The soldiers entered deeper, moving past hidden wires and pressure plates. Now! Cal pressed the button. The ground below the soldiers exploded with sparks and smoke. Metal shards shot through the air. Some were caught in the blast. Others scrambled for cover. Lyra jumped down, her body glowing with energy now fully unleashed. She moved like lightning, dodging, striking, disabling. Cal stayed above, using the control pad to activate walls that collapsed and blocked exits. The traps worked just as planned. But then, the commander stepped forward. Unlike the others, he didn't flinch. He raised a hand and fired a beam of energy directly at Lyra. She was thrown back, crashing into a wall. "Lyra!" Cal shouted. The commander turned toward him. "You made a mistake, human." Before he could fire again, Lyra stood. Her voice echoed through the cavern. "You're wrong. He made a choice." Her body pulsed with power. For a second, her skin became almost translucent. The light inside her burst out, and with a cry she released a powerful wave of energy that disabled every device around them, including the commander's suit. Sparks flew. The commander collapsed, armor smoking. Then everything went quiet. Later, when the air cleared, Cal helped Lyra sit down. "You saved me," he said, breathing hard. "We saved each other," she replied. They looked around. The soldiers were gone, the drones disabled, and the threat was over. For now, but they knew this was only the beginning. Someone would respond to the data they sent, and the galaxy would learn the truth. Lyra leaned on Cal's shoulder, her eyes closing. "I'm tired," she whispered. "Then rest," he said. "I'll keep watch." In the darkness of the old tunnel, two lives, one human, one hybrid, found something no war could destroy: hope. The desert sky slowly brightened as dawn approached. The stars faded, and the first soft rays of sunlight touched the rocky walls of the tunnel. Cal sat quietly, his back against the cold stone, while Lyra rested beside him. Her breathing was calm now, the fight from the night before behind her for the moment. Outside, the world seemed peaceful, but they both knew that peace was fragile. The data they sent had traveled far beyond the desert canyons and ruined outposts. Hidden among the stars, trusted allies of Earth and independent colonies had received the message. The truth about the Coalition's secret experiments, their plan to control hybrids, and the coming threat was no longer hidden. It was a spark. Cal looked at Lyra, her skin still faintly glowing, but her eyes filled with a quiet strength. She was no longer just the wounded hybrid he had found in the desert. She was a symbol now, a living proof that even in the darkest places hope could grow. "Do you think they'll come for us again?" she asked softly. Cal shrugged. "Probably, but we're not the same people they faced before. We have friends now." Lyra smiled for the first time in days, a true smile. "Friends?" "Yes," Cal said. "People who believe in what you are, who want to stop the Coalition's plan." She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Then we have a chance." The silence was broken by a distant sound, a soft hum at first, then growing louder. Cal stood up and looked toward the tunnel entrance. A small group of ships hovered just beyond the rocks. Their designs were different: sleek, fast, and painted with the colors of the Free Colonies Alliance. They landed quickly, and armed figures stepped out. Cal waved his hand. "We're here. They've come." Lyra stood beside him, steady and calm. The leader approached, a woman in a green uniform, her eyes sharp but kind. "We received your message," she said. "We're here to help." Cal smiled. "We've been waiting for you." The next days were filled with meetings, planning, and careful preparation. Cal and Lyra shared everything they knew: the locations of secret labs, the details of the hybrid program, and the evidence stored in Lyra's data crystal. The Alliance officers listened carefully. They asked questions, took notes, and promised action. Lyra found herself surrounded by people who treated her with respect, not fear or suspicion. It was a new feeling. One evening, as the camp settled down, Cal and Lyra walked under the open sky. The stars shone brightly, free from the dust and smoke. "You saved me, Cal," Lyra said, her voice soft. "No," he replied. "You saved yourself, I just helped." She looked at him, eyes full of emotion. "You didn't just touch me because I was wounded. You touched me because you saw me as more than a weapon." Cal nodded. "Because you are more." For a moment, the desert was silent except for their breathing. Weeks passed. The Alliance forces moved quickly, striking secret facilities, freeing captive hybrids, and exposing the Coalition's crimes to the galaxy. The news spread like wildfire. People began to question the powers that controlled them. Cal stayed close to Lyra, helping her adjust to a life that was more than survival. She learned to laugh again, to trust and to dream of a future. One day, Lyra stood before a crowd of humans and aliens, telling her story. Her voice was strong, her message clear. "We are not weapons," she said. "We are individuals with hope, fear, and dreams. We deserve freedom." The crowd cheered. Later, as the sun set, Cal and Lyra sat together on a rocky hill overlooking the camp. "Do you miss your old life?" Cal asked. Lyra shook her head. "My old life was made for control and fear. This is real." Cal smiled. "And what now?" Lyra took his hand. "Now we build a new future, together." Cal squeezed her hand gently. "I'm glad you stepped forward," she whispered. He looked into her eyes. "So am I." The desert wind whispered around them, a promise of change, of hope, and of a new beginning. The human who dared to touch the wounded hybrid had changed not only her life, but the fate of many worlds, and in doing so had shown what humanity truly meant.